What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla Spy, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the overall market as we have important CPI data that just came out. Not to mention more data coming out for tomorrow. I'm also going to be talking about a very, very big test for Tesla Spy and the VIX going into tomorrow. But before I break things up with this information, before I give you guys any price predictions and break down what's happening with all the data and the charts, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon in just about 13 days. Anyways, for Tesla, we saw a very, very interesting day. Tesla popped with the overall market as we had CPI come out very close to expectations. And then after it hit this resistance at 182, coming just short of a break for another big push, Tesla got a big rejection, started sinking as the day went on. We had some negative news. We had the overall market kind of like playing a role for different sectors, such as the EV sector. And we had a lot of negative things being said about Tesla by the media, which led to this little sell off. So it was a mix of many different factors from the sectors to what's happening with meme stocks. And if you want to just, call everything out, all those different things played a big role in why Tesla did what it did. And some other tech stocks kind of played a role too. But with all this happening and Tesla kind of selling off the way it did, the question is what's happening for tomorrow? What is the big test? I'll be talking about that a little bit later into the video. I first want to talk about some data. So in case you guys missed my earlier video, I broke down the CPI numbers. Let me just quickly go over them one more time. So CPI was aligned with expectations pretty much throughout every single metric. Firstly, you guys can see right here at the top, we had 0.3% for core CPI month over month. That's aligned with expectations. Year over year, core was at 3.6%, aligned with expectations. Same thing with inflation month over month. For all items, it was 0.3% aligned with expectations and 3.4% year over year aligned with expectations. Retail sales also went down to about 0%. That's actually another good sign because it's showing spending is slowing down, and consumption makes a very, very big part of our economy here in the USA. So consumers are a big part of how things end up growing, how things end up moving. That has a big effect on all these different sectors from tech, not to mention consumer discretionaries and etc. So with that happening, Jerome Powell was very optimistic yesterday, partially and likely due to the fact that he knew CPI would be decent. And as a result of that, the market is just continuing to rally. We also had a couple of Fed speakers that didn't really say too much. CPI looked like this on paper, of course. And let me just note, guys, that I do not fully trust everything that's said about CPI. I know that the way that it's calculated could be very, very biased. I'm well aware of all of that. I'm simply talking about these numbers the way I am because of the fact that the market accepts it, and we have to just go based off of these. And this is also very important for the Fed and a bunch of different factors. So for all, all items, CPI came down just a little bit. You guys can see it right over here in the blue line. And for this purple line, all items without food and energy also saw a little bit of a decrease. So that's for core CPI, slight decreases here and there. For month over month, for CPI for all items, 0.3%. Once again, slightly lower than what we got previously. So a little bit of an improvement right over there. I'm not going to go over the specific numbers. You guys could look at this if you guys want on your own, but that's going to be like too much detail at this point. Uh, when it comes to the markets, we also have more data coming out for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, May 16th, 2024. Please note that at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have initial jobless claims coming out. We have jobless claims for the 4-week average, and we'll see how the numbers end up looking as they may cause somewhat of a move. But always remember that the market could be very illogical. Even if we get decent jobless claims, the market could start pushing. If they're not too great, the market could also push up, and the same thing vice versa. So we'll just watch to see what the reaction is. The price action matters more than what the numbers are. They just use the numbers as an excuse to kind of move liquidity around, in my opinion. So 1 hour before the market opens, we have some jobs numbers coming out. Then after that, before the market opens, we have 15 minutes before open at 9:15 a.m. industrial and manufacturing production numbers. Then just a bunch of Fed speakers from Barr to Harker to Mester and Bostic. So a bunch of Fed speakers throughout the day, some industrial numbers coming out right before the market opens. And then an hour before open, we have some important jobs numbers being the most important pieces of data for the day. We'll see what happens with those. Moving forward, when it comes to earnings, real quick, Cisco just announced their earnings. For tomorrow, we have more retail like Walmart, JD, and John Deere. Cisco did relatively decently in terms of their overall projections, but their revenue is not the best. So EPS was a beat at 88 cents adjusted. The revenue is at 12.7 billion. That's above expectations, not bad. But the issue was we had very, very low expectations for the quarter. That's part of why, like, despite the fact that they beat, it's still a bit of a drop compared to what we saw previously. Despite that, their overall fiscal 2024 guidance was pretty good for revenue. For other factors, we also had this kind of adjusting for the overall markets. The fear and greed index is currently at greed right now. We're seeing greed make up the majority of sentiment as buyers are coming back. Momentum is very greedy as buyers are in control. We also have the puts and call option positioning dipping right over here as more puts are being closed, more calls are being bought, and more hedging is going on as more and more people are buying up those shares. So it's once again pushing up the markets. Market is still getting propped up. And then last but not least, we have the VIX. The VIX is once again at the very, very mid 12s, the 12.4 area. We're watching to see if we get a big bounce or not. That's going to be key for us. And we'll see how things move at least going forward. But for now, I think that's very important for us to just kind of watch the VIX, see what it ends up doing as we have a big test coming out for tomorrow. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Now, when it comes to Tesla, I want to talk about this. So, Tesla's getting some criticism right now. One of its rivals, technically, is known as NIO, and they've launched a new brand that's known as Envo. They have the L6 that just came out. It's undercutting the Model Y by about $4,000. It's another SUV that's very important in China. They want this to become the new standard. I just want to make it very clear that right now, in China, there's a lot of innovation in the EV sector. A lot of that is thanks to Tesla, of course. But with all the innovation that's coming, it's leading to a lot of competition and prices and such. So that's actually some big news. This is incentivizing Tesla to announce a more cheaper model very soon in China too. That's going to help them compete a lot more. But right now, this is not the best of news for Tesla, at least when it comes to competition and such, because this could drive some sales away from them if NIO continues to grow and the Envo ends up absolutely crushing it as it's a lot more affordable. They also plan on expanding the Envo to different countries. The L60 may be going to like European countries and such. That's what the CEO said. So that wasn't the best of news for Tesla. There's also news that's coming all over the markets that Tesla's cutting more jobs in California and also in Arkansas. That is very, very important. They're cutting over 300 in Arkansas, another 600 in California. The job cuts continue. Why is that not the best of news? Because Tesla has great employees who are getting laid off, very, very important executives, great engineers. But what is good about it is the fact that this is helping to cut costs for Tesla during hard times like these, and that could actually help them at least to some extent. So it is what it is. It's kind of there's a balance between it, some good, some bad. But we'll see what happens moving forward. Tesla had a little bit more of a negative reaction to this, and then some good news, at least for Tesla, is the fact that Elon Musk is making announcements that Tesla's next FSD driving update is going to have about 5 to 10x more miles per intervention. That is basically implying that the car is going to be able to drive itself for longer durations of time before someone has to kind of like interfere, kind of grab the wheel, stop it from oversteering or something like that. So lots of improvements are being made. I went into more detail about this in my earlier video. I just want to call this out that there are some good pieces of news too. But overall, Tesla still dipped amidst everything that was going on because of different sectors. This is it's kind of like it's by the rumor, sold news of reaction when it came to other things that were coming out, and also a bunch of different things that have been playing out. Cantor Fitzgerald initiated basically an overweight rating, at least for Tesla, saying it's going to outperform. There's also news right over here that when it comes to the price peers ratio, basically this is kind of flat right now. Tesla's kind of dipping a little bit, losing some strength relative to the markets. We have a tendency of seeing more volatility. About 48% of the time, we're actually green when it comes to our seasonality on Thursdays. We tend to see more volatility at 10 a.m., around noon, and also at around the second to last hour of the day at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We tend to see more volatility for Tesla during those time frames. May tends to not be the strongest months for Tesla. It's been a decent month overall, but June tends to be a much stronger month historically, one of the strongest months of the year. So let's hope for some very, very good price action for June for Tesla. Also, for volume, we got about 79 million, a little bit below average. That's why Tesla kind of trades sideways for the majority of the day. So Tesla basically kind of like popped up in the pre-market and saw a big dump for the first couple of hours, then just started trading sideways for the rest of the day for over 4 hours of just sideways price action. So the question is, what's happening to Tesla? In my personal opinion, what is the big test I was talking about? Let's talk about that right now. Tesla got this little rejection right over here, but you guys can see that we still have an uptrend that's trying to be established right here. In my personal opinion, we could still be on an uptrend as long as Tesla's above 172, but that's going to be a very, very critical test. If Tesla dips more, look for 172 as key support. If we bounce off that, Tesla could rebound and still continue to push. If we lose that, we're going to turn a lot more bearish. We have resistance at 175. If we break that, watch 176 at our 200 EMA. And if we break that, look at 178 to 180, then 182 and 186. Overall, I would say Tesla's on a slight uptrend, but it's losing some strength right now because of some negative news that came out. And the overall market could also dictate it for tomorrow since we have something very big going on. In my opinion, Tesla has this nice liquidity grab right here, and this is actually into more downwards pressure. So there's a very good chance it might try to fill this imbalance down here and actually dip a little bit more. It might dip a little bit more towards 172, and we'll see if Tesla gets a big bounce or not. So this could even happen during the pre-market. If Tesla dips a little bit more to 172, watch and see if we get a big bounce. If we bounce off 172, we could rebound to about 176 again. If we lose 172, we're going to be dipping all the way back down to at least 168, in my personal opinion. So I think we're going to see a big test tomorrow on Tesla, and whether or not we get a rejection or not could also be somewhat dictated by the overall market. And what do I mean by that? Well, the answer is based off SPY and the VIX. So SPY is bullish right now. This thing is on a monstrous run, approaching the 530 area. If we break this, look for 532, and it is possible it goes a little bit higher, but watch and see if we end up getting an ultimate rejection. And the reason I say that is because SPY is at some tight resistance and the VIX is at some tight support. If we continue to break out, something very, very unusual could happen, and the VIX has potential to break its low, the lowest level we've seen on the VIX the entire year. Okay, so that's the very, very important thing that's going on. Let me just show you these side by side. So SPY is pushing up like crazy, right? Right over here. But if we kind of go back on the charts, maybe we actually go back to the VIX, you'll notice that the VIX is at some critical supports right over here. Sorry, let me pull up the VIX on this side just to show you guys something very important. The VIX, every single time this thing hit 12.4 this entire year, the VIX has bounced. Let me just show you on the 4-hour time frame, just like this. You guys can actually see it very, very clearly. So if you look at the VIX on my right side of the screen, you will notice that we're at this support right over here. See the yellow line right over here. Every time the VIX hits this, it's actually bounced. Every single time this whole year. The only time we were below this was back in 2023. So every time we hit this white line, the VIX bounces. We're at some critical support right here. If the VIX is about to bounce off the same line it's bounced off of every single time this whole year, if it bounces here, this could be a sign that SPY is going to go a little bit higher than see a big rejection, right? But what if SPY is about to do something crazy and just keeps running? What if SPY keeps going to 532, 533, 535? It's possible the VIX is going to lose this support and start sinking all the way down to the lower 12s. That's a big anomaly because that's the first time this happened this entire year. That's a big sign of weakness for the VIX. So the VIX is at critical support right now. We're at the support at 12.4. Are we about to get a big bounce or about to reject? There's going to be a big test tomorrow, in my personal opinion. That's going to dictate how the market ends up moving. All right. So with that being said, SPY has resistance at 530. If we break this, look for 532, then 535. We have supports basically at 529.5. If we lose that, I could see us dipping to 528, then 526.62. Overall, the chart is bullish on SPY. The chart is bullish, is pushing higher, making higher highs and higher lows, and there's no sign of this actually rejecting or dropping just yet. It is continuing to push very, very nicely. SPY looks bullish. It's going to likely try to continue to go. So this favors upside more than downside. But just to be safe, watch and see if we end up breaking or not. That's going to be pivotal for the way that this is moving. As of right now, it looks more bullish, so it favors the upside. But watch the critical resistance as we approach 530 and 532 and see if we get a rejection because of the VIX, if the VIX ends up getting a bounce or not. But just know we do look more bullish, at least for the time being. For Nvidia, we also look very bullish on Nvidia. Let me actually show you why I say that. When you zoom all the way out of the chart like this, watch this, guys. Notice that Nvidia is actually trying to fill this imbalance, looking kind of symmetrical. I think it's going to be pushing for 960 all the way up here, so it looks more bullish overall. If we end up losing the 950 area, I'll be watching 945. If that fills us, look for 930 all over again. But in my personal opinion, I think that the odds favored going up to about 960 at the very least. So Nvidia looks more bullish from a technical standpoint. For the QQQ, it's looking more bullish. It's continuing to break out. It's actually pushing in the after hours again. Watch 453.5, this entire zone right here. If it rejects here, we're going to be looking for 450 as support. If we break that resistance, we're going to be pushing for 455. Overall, the chart is looking more bullish, and this does favor the upside as we're breaking to new all-time highs. So the QQQ is looking more bullish. For Apple stock, Apple's in a critical place. We have resistance at this 190.5 area. We have support currently at around basically 189 and also 188. This chart is favoring the upside a bit more. It does look like it wants to push higher, but just to be safe, we'll be watching for confirmation. Apple looks like it wants to hit 190, so we'll see if that ends up being the case, and we'll see how this ends up moving, but just know that this has upside potential nonetheless. For Neo. Neo had this big red bar down here hitting the 50 EMA. If it loses this, I'm going to be looking for about a test of potentially 5.9, 5.09 or something like that. We might be dipping to the low fives, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not. We have a double top leg structure, looks a little bearish, might dip a little bit more than try to bounce. It was a buy the rumor, sell the news event. For Bitcoin is looking more bullish. It's trying to break out right now. I could see it actually go a little higher to fill this imbalance. I'm going to be looking for 67,000 and see how it reacts to that. For now, it looks a bit more bullish. With that being said, guys, I went over the Bitcoins, I went over the Teslas and the SPYs. Now let's talk about the other tickers I have in mind on my watch list. And I'm going to try to be kind of quick with this since I have very limited time. So Palantir is looking a bit more bullish. If we break past 21.7, look for 22.2. If we lose support at 21.5, we're going to be looking for a dip for 21. The chart looks a bit more bullish overall. Supermicro is looking more bullish. If we hold above 945, we're going to be looking for a push for 975. If we lose support, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 920. This chart favors more upside, in my opinion. For Rivian, we're looking a bit more bullish. We're on a slight uptrend right over here. The 50 EMA is going to be our key support. If we bounce off this, look for 10.5, then 10.73. If we lose 10.15, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards the 9.8 area. This chart is looking like it's trying to bounce and go up to 10.5. Just to be safe, watch for confirmation. For SoFi, we're on a bit of an uptrend, but we have to hold 7.18. It's going to likely test this. If we bounce off this, look for 7.4. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 7, but I favor a potential bounce. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're looking at a little bit more bullish. If we break the high right over here around this 210 area, we're going to be going all the way up to about 212. If we reject off 210, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 207. But this chart's looking a bit more bullish in my personal opinion. For AMD, we're also looking a little bit more bullish. Excuse me. I can see this going all the way up to about 162. So this actually looks like it's going to try to push a little bit higher, in my opinion. If we were to retrace, look at 160. If we lose that, we're going to be coming down to 157. But I favor the upside a bit more for 162. For ARM, ARM is on a very, very nice uptrend right now. We have support currently at 111. If we lose that, look for 108. If we bounce off this, we're going to be pushing for about 120. If that breaks, we're going up to 122. I favor at least 120 for a bounce. For Coinbase, we're also looking more bullish. I think that this could actually try to continue a little bit higher and try to push for 226 if we break past 220. If we lose 218, we're going to be tipping down to 213. So I favor this going up to about 226 a little bit more. Amazon's very indecisive right now. It's going back and forth, but it's on a slight downtrend. So it's actually looking a little bit weak compared to the market. Look at support at 185.4. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping down towards 184 flats and even lower levels. Look at resistance at 186.61. We look like we might dip a little bit, so watch for that just for confirmation. For Meta's on a bit of an uptrend right now. We're trying to fill this imbalance. This favors, in my opinion, trying to go higher towards 485. If that breaks, we could be going all the way up to about 493. So this chart's looking a bit more bullish, but we have to hold above 480 for confirmation. If we lose 480, look at 478 to be retested. I'll be watching for that just to be safe. For Microsoft, we're looking a bit more bullish as we're trying to break past this resistance. We're testing resistance around 424. If we break this, we're going to be going all the way up towards 427. If we reject off 424, we're going to be tipping all the way down towards 418. So I favor the upside a little bit more. For Google to me is looking a little bit more bullish because we have this resistance right here. I think it's trying to go up to 175 if we break the high of the day. If we reject off 174, look for a dip towards 172.5, but I favor upside a bit more. For GME, we have support at 34 to 20 EMA. If we lose this, we're going to be tipping all the way down a little bit lower. For AMC, we're also looking a little bit more bearish. I could be looking for a test of about 5 flats to 4.3 if that fails us. And once again, for the VIX, we're at support at 12.4. If the VIX bounces off this, that's what's likely. This is what the chart kind of suggests for the entire year. But that's not a guarantee because of how strong spine the market is looking for the S&P 500, the indices, and et cetera, and futures. But I just want to make it very clear that the VIX is looking kind of weak right here. If we lose that, that's going to be a very, very unique trend that has developed. The first time it's losing this support this entire year. Every time it hit this level, it's bounced. So we will see, will the VIX get a big bounce here? Or is the VIX about to collapse and lose this support and start dipping to new lows? That's going to be a very, very big anomaly in my personal opinion. All right. And also historically, the VIX typically for the last 2-3 years, it always bounces off the 12. So we'll see what ends up happening from here. We'll wait and see, guys. I'm going to be very patient with this. The 10-year treasury yield is dipping a bit. We're approaching previous resistance becoming support at this 4.35 to 4.3 area. So we're at support on the 10-year treasury yield, We'll wait and see how that goes. And the dollar to me looks a little bit more bearish. It might actually dip a bit more towards 104. So with this potentially dipping all the way down here, this could be a signal that the market's going to go a little bit higher and the dollar might come a little lower. So signals, the majority of them do suggest that the market's at tight resistance, but there is more upside potential. That is what the majority of these signals are showing us. The SPY could go a little higher. For Tesla, we're looking a little bit weak right now after getting a big rejection after negative news and such. So we'll be watching to see what Tesla does. It might dip a little bit more towards 172. So we'll see if it bounces or not. With that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate every single one of you. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one tomorrow morning before the market opens to announce what happens with the jobless claims. All right, have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and peace out.